Let's take a look at how we can use our graphing calculators to help us solve the solution set for quadratic inequalities. So let's say our problem wants to know the solution to the system of inequalities that says that y is greater than this quadratic and y is less than this quadratic. So I'm going to pull out my graphing calculator. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is see how these equal signs are highlighted? That means I'm going to graph each of those. So right now, for my second equation, I'm going to go over onto that, and I'm going to press enter and unselect it. So right now, I'm just going to graph this first equation just to sort of show you. Okay, so there's my first parabola. Now I'm going to go back there, and I want to show you over here. This lets me graph greater than or less than. So if I want where y is greater than, I want to use my left-right keys to get over onto here. Now I'm going to keep pressing enter until I come up with this, which shows me that above the line, greater than the line, is shaded. That means that will graph, instead of this equal sign, it'll graph this as where y is above or greater than this quadratic. And that looks like that. And so what that means is I've still got my same parabola, but now rather than including any of these points here, which are smaller y's than the y's of my parabola, I'm including all of these points here, which are larger y's than my parabola. Okay, so now I'll go back here. And so now I want to include this as well. So for right now, I'm going to go back and I'm going to uninclude that one so that I can see these one at a time. I'm going to include that one, and I'm doing that by pressing my enter key when I'm on top of it. And now I'm going to get back over here by using my left-right key. And this time I want to go below the line. So there's my above the line. When I click the next enter, I have below the line. So I'll press graph, and again, it's not going to graph this one right now. It's only going to graph that. Well, first, let's predict a little bit. This says negative x. Is my parabola opening up or down? That is correct. My parabola is, I can't do it with my hand, it's opening down. There we go. And then below the line down is again going to be within that parabola. It's all the stuff that's below it. So there we go. Those are all of the below. Now, let's go back. And if I want to know the solution set to both, that means I want everything that's included in above this parabola, but below this parabola. And see this stuff right here that got double shaded? It's all the stuff above this, but below that. Now, while we're looking at calculator work, let's go ahead for a moment and let's use our calculator function. And so let's say we would like to know the intersection of those two. Whoopsie. And let's say we would like to know the intersection of those. So I'm going to come down to that, or I could have just pressed 5 and press enter. Okay, now it's going to say first curve. And so my cursor's way down there, but I want it up here. So I'm going to move along that first curve until I get to about the intersection and press enter. Now it's going to say second curve. Well, it's already there, so I'm going to press enter. It's going to ask me for a guess, and it's already there, so I'm going to press enter. And so the first intersection of these two curves is at x equals -1, y equals 0. And now I'll go back and I'll do it again. So again, I want the intersection. This time I'll press 5. So this time I want this one. So I'm going to move along that curve, pressing my right arrow key. And I'll get about there. There's the first curve. Second curve, I'm still down there. So I've got to move back up a bit, about there maybe, guess about there. And it tells me that my second place that the two curves intersect are where x is 3.5 and y is -2.25. So those are the two places where my parabolas intersect. Now let's say I would like to know the zeros. Well, we found one of them, right? Because one of the intersections actually was the 0. But let's go back to calculate, and let's say I would like to know the other 0. So again, it's going to say left bound. So that means some point that's to the left of the 0, and that's where we are here. So I'm going to press enter. Then it wants to know a right bound. So now I want to move up above the 0. Now it wants a guess, so I'm going to try and get on the 0. It doesn't matter if you're not very close. And now it tells me my other 0 is at 4 comma. And when you see something like this is also 0. This is -1 times 10 to the -12. So that's 0.12 zeros and a -1, which is essentially the same thing as 0. The calculator's just being a little fussy. All right, so there's a quick tutorial on how to use your calculator to graph quadratic inequalities, and also how to use your calculator to find some things like the intersections, like the zeros, etc. Okay, hope you found that helpful. Feel free to leave in the comments anything you'd like to see more info on. Check out my Algebra 2 playlist. Consider subscribing to my channel so you know when I put out a new video. And as always, keep on mathing.